everyone, my name is Debbie Jones-Snyders and I'm from the Hopedale Presbyterian Church. I'm delighted to welcome children and families to our church school lessons and crafts. Our story today is the parable of the Good Samaritan, which is adapted from Mission Bible class with illustrations from Sweet Publishing and accessed via Free Bible Images. We have two coloring pictures today. And we have one craft, a helping hands craft, which opens. And there you go, all the people that you can help. So it reminds you. And we have a variety of other activities for you as well. And so now our story. So in today's lesson, we're going to learn about a parable that Jesus told about neighbors. We think of neighbors as someone who lives next door. So who is our neighbor and how should we treat them? This parable tells you. Wherever Jesus went, people would come to hear him tell about God. They loved to hear him tell parables. Parables were stories that helped people understand important lessons. Once a man who was an expert in the law of God asked Jesus a question, "Teacher, what must I do to live forever?" Jesus knew the man was an expert in God's Old Testament laws. He asked the man what the Old Testament laws said that a person must do to live forever. The man's answer was, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself." Jesus told the man that he was right. That was the greatest commandment. That is the way to live forever. And then the man asked about loving your neighbor as yourself. Did he have to love all of his neighbors? Or just the ones that lived close by? He asked Jesus, "Who is my neighbor?" Instead of telling him the answer, Jesus told a parable, and this is the parable or the story. A man was traveling by himself from Jerusalem to the town of Jericho. While he was on the road, some robbers attacked him. They beat him up and took everything he had, even his clothes. The man was left all alone on the road. He waited and waited for someone to come by and help him. A priest came walking by on the road. Priests were God's helpers in the temple. They knew how to worship God. They knew all the rules of God. Do you think the priest helped the man? No. The priest went on the other side of the road and passed right by the man without helping. Next, a Levite came along the road. Levites knew all of God's laws. They were good Jews. Do you think the Levites stopped and helped the man? No. The Levite looked at the man and then crossed the road and walked right past him. In those times, it may have been they thought he was dead and maybe they thought he was unclean. Finally, a man from Samaria came along the road. The Jews did not like Samaritans. Everyone thought that Samaritans would never help anybody, but this Samaritan was good. He saw the man on the road and he stopped to help. He put oil and wine on the man's wounds. Oil and wine were used for medicine in those times. Then he lifted the man onto his donkey and took him to a nearby inn. He took care of the man all night to make sure that he was going to be well. The next morning, the Samaritan had to leave to continue on his journey. He wanted to make sure that the injured man was taken care of, so he gave money to the innkeeper. He gave him enough money so that the man could stay at the inn for 2 months. He even told the innmaker that he would come back next time he was traveling and pay more money if the man was still sick. Everyone was very surprised to hear this parable. When Jesus was finished, he asked the expert in the law of God a question. 3 men went on the road that day: the priest, the Levite, and the Samaritan. Which one of these men do you think was a neighbor to the man who was beaten and robbed? What do you think that the expert in the law of God answered? That's right. The Samaritan was a neighbor. Helping anyone who needs help is being the kind of neighbor that God wants. We don't even have to know the person. We should help them just because they need help. We have 2 coloring pictures. And we have 1 craft. This is the Helping Hands book, basically, and it opens up. So you see on one side we've got Helping Hands with a heart. On the other side there's a cross and it says Helping Hands. And inside we have, on one side, I am a good servant of God. And on the other side, love one another. And so these are all the people that you can help. Your parents, your friends, your grandparents, your church, your classmates. And you can come up with other ideas. So in order to do this craft, you will need some construction paper. You will need scissors. You will need some kind of markers. You'll also need a fastener. So what you do, pick the color of construction paper that you want, and you basically put your hand on the construction paper and outline it. And you can do them sort of back to back. If you fold the paper, then you only have to cut it once. So then you cut it, so you have 2 hands, and then you write down what you want to do. Loving one another and helping hands, and the people that you're going to help. And you decorate it. And then you put it together so that they fit together. Make sure when you're writing things out that you're going to fit them together like a book, so they match. You get the fastener and you just stick it through like that. And there you go. You have a book that will remind you about helping other people. So we have other activities for you as well. And they include a crossword, a word search, and a coded activity, figure out the words, and a hidden picture, find the hidden objects in the picture activity. So this week, remember that by helping and loving others, we show that we are good servants of God. Our neighbor is anyone who needs our help. Have a great week.